From UFOs to psychic powers and government conspiracies, history is riddled with unexplained events. You can turn back now or learn the stuff they don't want you to know.
It is time to make the official announcement, folks. Texas Rangers have said that they will stop trying to hypnotize people. In other news,
finally,
Texas Rangers have apparently been hypnotizing a shit ton of people for more than 4 decades.
What, which is like with their charming Southern drawl, or like how are they going about this?
No, they've just got Chuck Norris. He's rolling around and he just kind of puts his shades down really slowly.
Yeah. Or if Chuck isn't around, they use the quite prestigious Texas Ranger badges, and then just like look into the rotation of the badge.
Oh, I get it.
You're getting very sleepy. Very sleepy. Now, who killed JFK? But no, I know it sounds like a crazy story, you guys, but it is true. I did not, I was not aware that hypnosis was being used this frequently by the Rangers specifically. And in an odd bit of synchronicity, I believe somebody has also posted this on Here's Where It Gets Crazy, which is rated arbitrarily by us as the absolute best page on all of Facebook. Here's what happened. So, since at least the start of the 1980s, maybe a little before then, the Texas Department of Public Safety, which oversees the Highway Patrol and the Rangers, has been using hypnosis techniques to get statements from victims and eyewitnesses. They've used this technique, according to the Dallas Morning News, at least 1,800 times over the last 40 years. And this kind of hypnosis is not we've talked about this in the past. It's not the stereotypical, balk like a chicken or squawk like a chicken or whatever, or, you'll hear this magic word and then you'll moon people or anything like that. This is meant to to help people mentally regress through memories so that they can have more clarity of what they saw, witnessed, experienced. So, like, if this stuff works, then the idea would be, let's say someone has witnessed a carjacking, right? And they say, okay, we're going to put you under and we're going to use these hypnotic techniques to help you fully remember what you saw. So now you're just not saying it was a dude in a red shirt. You're able to say it was a dude in a red polo who was wearing blue jeans. He had a Lakers hat on.
This is like regression hypnosis or whatever.
Yeah. Yes.
Hypnotic regression. This is blowing my mind, Ben. I didn't think any law enforcement agency would be using this. Generally, it's
controversial even in therapy, let alone for like eyeball witness accounts, right? Because it's notoriously unreliable.
Mm-hmm. Because the science, so there is some solid science to hypnosis, but there's a really dangerous thing with this kind of approach. And it's this, if you are listening and you are a human being, then every time you remember something, you are not remembering that actual event. Every time after the first time you remember it. Instead, you are remembering the last time you remembered thinking about this thing. And your memory will be affected by smells, sights, sounds, sensations, even temperatures, all the stuff in your environment that you're encountering in real time while you're remembering something in the past. So it is very easy for new memories to be created And you, as the person experiencing these memories, will not be able to differentiate between those memories and the real ones. Like in a way, this is, oh, how full circle is this? In a way, this is like a predecessor to the deep fake of the digital age. And you don't need technology to do it. You just need a calm voice and a relaxed environment, and then someone who will go with you for the ride. We can, and this is not saying the Rangers are doing this at all. They're not like purposely trying to implant ideas or distort recollections, but it's very, very easy to accidentally do that. And that's where it gets dangerous. Also, it's controversial, but Matt, you raised a good question, which is, you said, I don't picture law enforcement doing this kind of stuff, but we know that law enforcement has been taken in by very unorthodox ideas or claims in the past, like so-called psychic detectives, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which we should do an episode on. I imagine it's weird that we haven't actually. And then
several. I remember when we made the show about the Atlanta missing and murdered, we were so surprised to see actual news reports of Atlanta PD and a couple other police departments using psychic detectives or psychics to help them locate people. I couldn't believe it.
Remote viewing type things, like to find bodies or all that.
Essentially, yeah, to locate remains.
Mm-hmm. Like I have a strong image of a bridge. There's running water. There's a sign. I see a sign. It starts with a
Wayne Williams.
Yes, that's the guy.
Unfortunately, that's how it works because there's a lot of cold reading involved there. But law enforcement we can't emphasize this enough. In theory, the way it's supposed to work is that law enforcement has to evaluate all citizen-like reports. So it's often not them necessarily going out and finding a psychic or someone who claims to be a psychic. Instead, it's somebody proactively calling them and saying, I know what happened because I have information about this. And then they have to say, okay, well, tell us, because otherwise you're not really doing your job, are you? The thing with, I don't know, I didn't know this before, but at least 21 states have banned evidence in court if it's gleaned entirely through hypnosis.
Yep.
They're no longer going to let you play he said, she said with your past self, basically.
Well, it makes complete sense. Do we have any understanding of the people who were actually administering this? Were they bringing people in to run hypnosis sessions, or were they, I don't know, were the actual officers doing this, or somebody in the Rangers? I don't know. How did it work?
Yeah, so there was a program that was based on the work of an LAPD psychologist named Martin Reiser. In 1980, he wrote a book called The Handbook of Investigative Hypnosis. And this is one of the bedrocks of that program in Texas. And officers would be using these techniques. So they would be trained, at least in this regard.
Wow.
There have been, I think not quite 900 police have been certified by the state of Texas in this investigative hypnosis.
That's a lot.
In this, yeah, it is. It is a lot. But to be fair, we also don't know how many of those 874 people are still performing this stuff, or how many of them just took the course and then said, okay, well, I had that box checked off and now I don't have to ever worry about this again.
I mean, is this something that pops up in other law enforcement agencies? I mean, I've always kind of, probably because of Walker, Texas Ranger, a bit of a mystical vibe to like the Texas Rangers. But now they're starting to feel a little more like a Jedi than like a detective. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's still been used by some police agencies or law enforcement outfits, I should say, as well as some intelligence agencies. But it's like, I think the thing that startles a lot of people if they've just seen lie detectors on television and stuff, is that polygraphs are also kind of trash science. It's weird that they're still being used, at least in the way that they are. And with this idea of hypnosis, yeah, it's been around. Like, people have been using or attempting to use these techniques with what they would argue are some credible results since at least the Second World War. So this stuff is around, but there's another issue here. And again, this is not accusing witnesses of lying. This is not accusing the individuals in law enforcement of purposely stitching someone up for a crime they didn't commit. But we know that multiple cases that result in convictions are based on what later turns out to be a witness somehow misidentifying a perpetrator. And these people who are wrongfully convicted may languish in jail for years before, say, a DNA test comes out, or before they are able to get access to legal assistance that can address the problems in their case. Also, I don't know about you guys, but I'm a little torn reporting on this because I think the idea of like a hypnosis ranger is just so cool. It is so amazingly cool. Hypno Ranger, Walker, Hypno Ranger.
Totally.
Are you kidding?
It's more like Kane from Kung Fu or something, you know? Like, again, it's just got this real kind of mystic vibe to it. But I guess the way they use it, though, it's almost more like an interrogation technique than like, you know, look into my eyes kind of situation, right?
Well, yeah, okay, so, but it's for witnesses, right? It's for people who saw a crime. It's for people who were victims of a crime, who were a part of it, trying to recall stuff about a suspect, right, or a person of interest. Well, I thought exactly what you just referred to there, Noel. When you first read this, Ben, I thought it was Rangers going out there, getting a person of interest into custody, and then like hypnotizing them, and then like trying to get them to tell them the truth. I was so excited about that. That's the one I want to see.
Yeah. Instead of a gun, they just like use their mind powers and hold out their hand. And freeze. That's the mind control noise. Yeah, that would be awesome. But the issue there is that it is actually quite difficult and somewhat unpredictable to use hypnosis in that kind of non-consensual way. There are ways around it, and you can exploit certain cognitive susceptibilities in certain individuals, but there's not really a silver bullet for that, even for the people who are very, very good at it. But I totally agree, man. Like, if you could hypnotize criminals, that's a great TV show, but it also means that if you are an officer who hypnotizes criminals, every case you land is automatically suspect.
Totally.
Did they really confess, or did like Walker, Texas mesmerize, or just knock him over?
Look,
coercion,
man,
right? It could certainly be considered coercion, or just suspect, right? Suspect testimony.
Yeah, but if Walker Hypno Ranger, if his techniques get us, to the murder weapon, then we're okay. As long as it's a physical piece of evidence that gets us there.
Right. Yeah. It just, in those 21 states, it can't just be hypnosis. If conversation under hypnosis leads to DNA evidence, leads to, like you said, a physical gun, or, they find the car that got stolen, etc., then it's a different conversation. So that's the huge controversy. But you might be interested to note that law enforcement, just in general, U.S. law enforcement, has cited a number of cases where they say hypnosis yielded positive, actionable results. The most infamous, was the kidnapping of a school bus that had like 26 kids and a driver aboard in Chowchilla, California.
Yeah.
Have you heard about this one?
Heard a story of it when we were making Zodiac, but was it buried, or was it like, man, I don't know, but that's something is firing in my brain, but I would need to go under hypnosis to tell you exactly how I remember it.
You're getting very sleepy. You're right. The story goes that a hypnosis expert spoke with a witness, helped them do this regression exploration, and while they were under this hypnotic questioning, they were able to recall the full license number of a van that the kidnappers drove. It's interesting. I mean, you can do a million, like, you don't necessarily have to hypnotize people. You can help your friends remember things much more clearly or in a much more distorted manner than they would alone. I'm telling you, just like so many very small things. If you're holding a hot drink, you're going to have more of a fond recollection when you think of stuff in the past. It's nuts. It's so easy to hack, which means that we have to ask ourselves, can we trust the science? How much of the curriculum of these sorts of programs, how much of that curriculum focuses on how to make sure you're not accidentally creating the memory you're attempting to discover, or you're not leading the witness? And it could be so easy. It could be Darren Brown does this a lot. It could be a quick slip of your speech. So instead you're saying, like, okay, you're getting very sleepy. What was the name, Pete, of the person you spoke to at the Dairy Queen? And they're not going to hear that, Pete. But later, as they're increasingly compromised, then of course they're not just going to remember the name Pete. They're going to see in their head the name tag that says Pete. And then boom, this poor schmuck at the Dairy Queen is going up the river. It's terrible. Dang. It's possible.
I started feeling really sleepy for some reason, Ben. I don't know what's going on.
Oh, Pete.